Even though I am British, I have never really cared for Doctor Who. Even though I spent my childhood hoovering up every bit of sci-fi I could get my hands or eyes on, I watched a few episodes with my family but never really compared it favourably with the more bombastic fare coming out of America, like Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, or even Star Trek The Next Generation. Peter Davison was Doctor Who when I grew up, and I recall almost nothing of Colin Baker, I think, who followed him up. And by the time Sylvester McCoy's run started, even the BBC, I think, were trying to get rid of Doctor Who. But with the return of Doctor Who to our screens, I thought I would return too, but to the very beginning by watching the first ever episodes of the first ever Doctor, William Hartnell. I have never seen any of these before, but they are available, strangely for a BBC show, via ITV here in the UK. The first episode being released in the week that JFK was assassinated doesn't exactly augur well, nor does the opening scene, which is completely unrealistic in that it features a British policeman actually doing something. However, it wouldn't be wise to underestimate the prescience of the Doctor Who writers, because the policeman is soon revealed to be utterly useless, failing to open a door that falls open by itself as soon as he leaves. This reveals the TARDIS amongst the junk of a warehouse. We're then introduced to the first companion, Susan, who is actually the Doctor's granddaughter, but initially she's introduced as a precocious student, excelling in some classes and utterly uninterested to the point of failure in others. All this is related by her teachers, Ian and Barbara, sharing their concerns about her well-being. And this being the 1960s, nothing much is made of them following her home, only to discover the locked TARDIS and not much else. Enter William Hartnell, who reacts offhandedly to the stories and dismisses their concerns of a missing girl. However, after hearing Susan's voice from inside, they force their way into the TARDIS, discovering, as most people have, that the TARDIS is much bigger on the inside. The dialogue here repeats itself a touch in order to explain what is going on to an uninitiated audience, but Hartnell's performance is what holds the interest. He has a dismissive and dangerous edge, as if he'd happily kill the two teachers to protect his and Susan's identity as travelling aliens. This dark edge is helped by some British teeth, giving him a mysterious vampire look. This dark edge unfortunately doesn't play out as well as it might have over the 4-episode arc, but it's basically all about the intrigue here in this first episode, especially if you know the premise of the series but haven't seen its origins before. The first 4 episodes, all about 25 minutes long, follow consecutively and tell one contained story. This one ends with the Doctor unwilling to let the two teachers leave, starting up the TARDIS and travelling through time to a very Star Trek looking set and some cavemen. In episode 2, The Cave of Skulls, the two teachers who were knocked unconscious now demand proof that they have travelled in time. They could look out of the door, but the Doctor says no. Meanwhile, there are cavemen outside who have forgotten to make fire. Their leader, Tsar, is threatened by the arrival of an outsider called Cal, and his inability to make fire weakens his position. The Doctor walks off alone to gather samples. The others marvel at their new surroundings, unaware that they're being watched. The Doctor lights his pipe and, seeing the fire from a match in his hands, entices the cavemen to kidnap him. They decide they're going to sacrifice him to the orb when it rises in order to relearn the lost skill of making fire. Susan and the others attempt to rescue him amidst a lot of screaming. They fail and are imprisoned in the cave of the title so that they can all be murdered when the sun comes up. Even though this episode is often called 10,000 BC, I think that it is actually set in the future. The cavemen talk about the orb rising, but it doesn't actually seem to, although you have to allow for the low quality of the 1960s TV. But when Ian and Barbara claim that time isn't a circle you can just get on and off wherever you want, the Doctor scoffs at them. Likewise, the old woman, who speaks with the kind of reverence for the past, says that fire will kill us all in the end. The sandy ground too is stone cold when Ian touches it. So I think that this world has either been through a nuclear winter, or it's a future where the sun is going out. Watch it for yourself and see what you think. But if that's the subtext, then the text here is fairly straightforward. Despots bad and doomed, working together good. But the episode ends with the heroes imprisoned in the Cave of Skulls and noticing that all the skulls present seem to have been caved in. The Doctor's dark side, as I mentioned, doesn't really develop as it might have, and that's particularly obvious in the third episode, Forest of Fear. There is some good development of the tension between him and Ian, but the Doctor is more apologetic and passive than scheming. Our heroes try cutting their bonds using the bones in the cave, but they meet with no success. Barbara is shocked that the Doctor is trying to help them escape, which is a bit weak given that they all tried to rescue him in the previous scene, but eventually they are released by the old woman who wants to avoid the tribe having fire again. They run into the trees with Zar following, both Barbara and Susan alternately engaging in some hysterics. When Zar is attacked by a tiger, which happens off screen, obviously, it is actually done quite well for all that. And here we see Hartnell counselling against helping him. He is dismissive of the wounded Zar and sarcastically asks, "These people have reason or logic?" But the others stabilise Zar and they all take him back to the village, even with some suspicion that the Doctor would sooner murder him. Though Cal blames Zar for the death of the old woman, the Doctor is able to prove it was Cal himself that killed her, and then Cal runs away. Ian offers the soon-to-be proverbial Cal is not stronger than the whole tribe, which strikes a chord with Zar. Zar then demonstrates his gratitude for them saving his life and his position by locking them back up in the cave. Episode 4, called The Firemaker, begins with the tribe deciding to murder them at sun-up. Ian starts a small fire in the cave. Zar pops in for a chat, particularly struck by Ian's observation that the many are more powerful than the one. However, he still wants to keep the secret of fire for himself to secure his position. Ian Barbara suggests that in our time the Firemaker is the least important member of the tribe, even though reality I don't think really offers much evidence to support that assertion. Cal returns and fights with Zar, which compares well to the broadly similar fights of Captain Kirk and co. But even though Ian has insisted that the many are more powerful than the one, literally none of them help Zar when he fights. When Zar then goes hunting for meat for the tribe, the heroes fake their own deaths with skulls on burning sticks, and they run away. The running is actually quite amusingly shot, with the actors obviously just bouncing up and down on the spot while stagehands flap fake branches against them, and you wonder who was the first to do this much imitated shot. But our heroes travel off to somewhere else, unaware the danger needle on the TARDIS is moving into the red, a nice way to wrap up the 4-episode arc and promise some future fun and games. What is quite interesting about these episodes is that they are about 23 minutes long, which makes them no longer than, say, an episode of The Big Bang Theory or Futurama, but they seem to have very little actual content. There's usually just 2 or 3 scenes, but for all that, they don't really get boring. The start of Doctor Who is actually better than I expected it would be, though the image and sound quality is what it is. The plot, characters and intrigue around the Doctors are quite compelling. I was not bored, nor were the sets or performances bad enough to be off-putting, not even what is a fairly standard, slightly cheesy TV depiction of cavemen. There's nothing incredible here apart from it being a small step forward towards something special. But there is some intelligent sci-fi and a positive moral imparted with a light touch, and modern TV could certainly learn a lot from that.
My name is Riley and I'm a student. The first 2 weeks at Sexington University were perfectly normal. I was drunk until the end of freshers when my student loan ran out. Then Professor Lovecraft exploded his lab and my eyebrows and everything changed. My roommate started dying. Aliens invaded. I killed a dragon over breakfast, got stranded in the past and attacked by dinosaurs. I might have committed a genocide. I might have robbed an empire. I may even have saved the world. I really hope next week is quieter. I have an assignment due.